What's the story, Morning Glory? What's the word, Hummingbird? Thank you so much for clicking on my channel and for joining me for this review of 90 Day Fiance Season 10, Episode 4 of These Two Lovers. So let's start off with Igor and Nikki. So they arrive at Igor's apartment, which is really cute. It has a lot of space to it. The apartment should be cute because Nikki had sent Igor money to get the bathroom renovated and I don't know what else. So the apartment does look nice. It's up to Nikki's standard. And yeah, it's a really cute apartment. So when they get to the bedroom, Nikki jumps into the bed right away, right? And normally this would be the part where they tell the camera crew to leave, to give them some private time. But that didn't happen with Nikki and Igor because Igor just really wasn't in the mood. And we're going to see that this is a big, big issue in their relationship, this lack of intimacy. So Nikki even asked him, so are you going to shower me? And Igor says, I don't know. So there's like a lot of red flags in this relationship, but we'll get into them a little bit later. So it's their first night together. They spend the night together. Nothing happened. Okay, no hanky panky. They both claimed that they were really, really, really tired. The next morning they get up and Nikki starts putting on her makeup. And so then they argue about her makeup because Igor tells Nikki that he likes or he prefers a much more natural looking woman. Nikki tells him, if you want a natural looking woman, then you get you a girl from Russia. You knew what it was when you met me. I've always been like this. And Nikki says to us that ever since Igor found out that she was trans, he's been a lot more macho and a lot more controlling. Now, that's very interesting. That's a very interesting observation because I would like to know what is it about her being trans that would make him a lot more controlling. So that's interesting. So they go to the park, they get ice cream, and she accidentally gets ice cream on her face, and she basically begs this man to lick the ice cream off of her face. And he tells her no, because you're wearing too much makeup. And so then he gets her a napkin. And this is her way of trying to spark up some type of intimacy between them. And, once again, he fumbled the ball and it went nowhere. So after that, instead of having like a really romantic picnic or even like a romantic stroll, instead what he wants to do at the park is he pulls out this puzzle game, and it was just a very bizarre, random thing to do. Like just out of nowhere, he has this puzzle game and he pulls it out and he wants her to do this puzzle where you put the pieces together to fit in a square. And, she says that this guy really loves chess and things like that. So she didn't know if he was trying to test her intelligence to see how quickly she can put this puzzle together, or if this was just his idea of something romantic or a good time or what. So this gives them an opportunity to talk about the lack of romance in their relationship, because a puzzle game is truly a sign that there's something wrong, especially since, you haven't even seen each other in 9 months. And that's why when she had back at their apartment, when they first arrived at the apartment, they hadn't been around each other in 9 months. You would have thought that as soon as she got on that bed, the camera crew would have left and they would have taken care of business. So at the park, she talks about how, there's no intimacy between them and she wants to get to the bottom of it. He says that their relationship is based on their souls connecting, and it's not so much physical, it's more soulful. That's what he says. That's his explanation of why there's, there's like no intimacy, no physical connection between them. So he says that with time, the more time that they get to spend with each other, the more that they get to know each other, eventually his man energy will rise. So to me, bottom line, flat out, point blank, he's just not attracted to her. He's not attracted to her. Maybe it's because she's trans and, that has messed with his mind from the moment that he found out and he's never been able to let that go. Or maybe because he's just not into her. So she says that she tells him, she says, whenever you want money from me, I have no problem giving it to you. But when I need something from you, that closeness, I'm not getting it from you. And she gives him 48 hours to make changes. And if nothing changes in 48 hours, she says that she's going to be out of there. So he's like, wow, Nikki, you're really serious. And she's like, yeah, I am really serious. So she tells us in her confessional that he's very cold towards her, that He's never put her on his social media. She feels like she's his secret, and she feels like he's ashamed of her. And I'm just like, check, 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 check. Yep. You're right. That's exactly what it is, girl. That's exactly what it is. So, I don't know why it has taken her this long, to figure all of this out, because they were just together 9 months previous in Mexico. So what happened over there? Was it on and popping in the bedroom in Mexico or not? I'm very confused. Like, what was going on in Mexico that didn't resolve anything, that didn't tell her anything, that she needed to go all the way to Moldova to figure out? That's what I really would love to know. So as far as I'm concerned, I think that Igor is using Nikki for her money, and that's it. I don't think he has any kind of romantic interest in her. It's just so blatantly obvious, it's so blatantly obvious. But it's a good thing that she is giving him the benefit of the doubt, and she's giving him 2 days, 48 hours to fix it. Otherwise, she's out of there. So we'll see how that goes. Moving on to Gino and Jasmine. So Jasmine admits that getting the butt implants was very selfish of her. It was not for her and Gino. This was strictly all for her. Gino is still mad about it. When we see them, when their segment begins, he leaves. I don't know where he went, but he takes off, and you can tell that he's still very upset about the fact that he sent her $4,000 for the butt implants. For the wedding gown. He sent her $4,000 for the wedding gown, but she turned around and used it for butt implants. So when he's away, she gets a chance to talk to her sister. She tells her sister that Gino had quit his job. So the sister is really shocked and surprised about this, because Gino never consulted with Jasmine about quitting his job. And this, of course, affects the sponsorship of her children coming and her younger sister coming. And the sister says, he really should have talked to you about this first. Why? Because she didn't talk to him about, how she misused or misappropriated the $4,000 that he sent to her. $4,000 is nothing to sneeze at. And Gino tells us later that it took him like a year and a half to save that money for her wedding gown. And, Jasmine's the kind of person, she's not going to get married in any old thing. So it just blows my mind that the sister didn't say anything about her taking the money and using it for something else. But, she's like, oh, well, he should have told you he was going to quit his job. So, which I believe he definitely should have told her, because you're going to go live with a man. You're going to go be married to a man, and, you're thinking that he's working like everybody else, but he's not. So yeah, Gino definitely should have told Jasmine that he had quit his job. In turn, Jasmine should have told Gino that she had, misused the money. So, Jasmine still hasn't told Gino. She tells her sister that she has yet to tell Gino that it was her ex, Dan, that had given her the remaining $2,000 for the butt implants. Jasmine says that she will eventually tell him, but right now is not the right time. So when they're back together again, he comes home and they have a conversation, and Jasmine admits that she would not have gone through with the butt implant surgery if she would have known that he had quit his job. And so she admits that it was selfish, that it was wrong for her to do that. And then they talk about Jasmine and her body dysmorphia. She talks about the reason why she needs to get all these plastic surgery and all of this is because she doesn't see herself the way we see her. Gino sees a very beautiful woman. When she looks in the mirror, that is not what she sees. So she's like trying to fix herself. She's trying to, I guess, have the outside match the way that she envisions herself. And through this conversation, we find out that her body image issues are a whole lot deeper than what Gino thought they were. And he tries to encourage her and compliment her and let her know, you're beautiful just the way you are. You don't need the surgery. You don't need all the wigs and extensions. She also reveals that she has alopecia. And that's why, for so many years she was wearing a wig and extension. And it's hard for her to go with her natural hair. And he tries to tell her, your natural hair is beautiful. So that's when she talks about how I don't see myself the way you see me. Then she starts crying. Of course, whenever Jasmine cries, Gino melts and he forgets about how angry he is. He forgets about all the things that she's done that made him so upset. And they talk about that, how they have to be more open and honest with one another. But she still hasn't told him about her ex giving her the $2,000. So let's see how Gino's going to take that after this conversation about being open and honest with one another and not hiding anything from each other. Moving on from there, we have Rob and Sophie. So they meet up with Rob's sister, Victoria. Victoria is a party planner by trade, and she has even volunteered to plan Rob and Sophie's wedding. So when they get together, and I think it's like at a arcade type place, so they get together and the sister, brings up the wedding and all of this. So they talk about the wedding for a little bit, and then the sister asks them, when are they going to start having children? So Rob says, well, we're not in a rush to have kids, but eventually I would like to have children. And then Sophie starts off by saying, I really don't see myself being pregnant. I don't want to be pregnant. And so Rob and Victoria and myself, we kind of look at her like, excuse me, like, what are you talking about? And so then she says that I really don't see myself having kids at all. And then she asks Rob, basically like, is it like a deal breaker for you if I don't want to have children? And Rob is like, hell yeah, because he's always envisioned having children at some point in his life. So Rob is so upset about this that he walks away from the table. So he actually starts crying. So he walks off, and I guess in his little confessional, when the producers are talking about his feelings about what she just said, he actually starts crying because he says that it totally crushed his future expectations of this life that he had envisioned with him and Sophie. He for sure thought that eventually they were going to have a family. So back at the table, Sophie tells Victoria that she may not even be able to have children. She talks about some type of medical thing that she had when she was younger. She had to have an operation, and that having kids can be fatal for her. So she kind of like ties this all into, it's not even about whether I want children. It's just the fact that I can't physically have them. And I'm just a little bit confused on how she had not told Rob this before, because Rob, he's like having every intention of having children at some point, and I don't think he would have that expectation if he would have known that having kids could possibly kill her. So I'm like really lost on how this information has never come up before. She ends up telling the sister that Rob knew about her having these surgeries when she was younger because she's got physical scars from the surgery. So she had explained to him that she had to have this surgery done. But because he never asked how this medical condition affected her fertility, she just assumed that he didn't really care about having kids. The sister goes to talk to Rob at some point, and the sister explains to Rob, well, did you know that she wasn't even able to have kids, or that having kids it's like she'll be putting her life at risk if she even, attempts to get pregnant. And Rob was like, no, I didn't know, because if I would have known, why would I be talking about the names that I wanted to give our kids in the future? So Sophie ends up trying to go talk to him, and he's not trying to hear nothing from her. So he tells her, I just want to be alone right now. So I'm just very confused about how this major medical condition that makes it almost impossible for her to have kids, this conversation has never come up before. And Rob says they talked about the names that they would give their kids. And she says that she told him about the medical procedure, but he never asked about the fertility or how it affects her fertility. So she just assumed that he didn't want kids. It's just not making any sense. I have a feeling, y'all, and I hate saying this because I don't want to discredit what she had to say, but I just get this feeling that she just doesn't want to have children, and that maybe she did have this medical procedure that has something to do with the reproductive system. But I think that she's probably just using that as an excuse to not have kids because she doesn't want to have kids. Because I just don't understand how, you would have thought, you would have thought that this conversation would have come up where she would have told him, I understand that we plan to have a family, but we're going to have to find, alternate ways because I'm not going to be able to have, or I'm not going to be able to carry our own biological children. I would have thought that would have come up at some point, especially that the fact that they are engaged. Okay, so she doesn't want to, so when they get back to the apartment, because he tried to talk about it at the arcade, and she was like, this is not the place to talk about it. So when they get back to the apartment, he's ready to have a conversation about it, and she says she's too damn tired. She's not ready to talk about it, and that she wants to sleep on it, and they can, discuss it in the morning. And Rob is like, I don't even know how she can sleep after dropping this bomb on me that we're not going to have kids. How can she even, go to sleep? But that's what she did. And he took the dog out for a walk. So like I said, I hope that I'm wrong. I hope that, she really truly cannot have children, and that she's not using this as a justification for not having kids, because she really never had any intentions of, being a mom. Moving on from there, we have Manuel and Ashley. This was so silly to me. This was so silly. Whatever they were arguing about, the internet and the phone, which is so silly to me. So they're having an argument about cell phones and internet. Manuel's phone does not work in the United States. He cannot get internet on his phone. And so I guess out of the kindness of her heart, she went ahead and ordered him a new phone, and she told him that it was going to be here in 2 days. Well, Manuel, according to Ashley, Manuel told her, well, that's going to be too long. I need internet right now, so just forget about the phone. So she was like, oh, forget about the new phone that I ordered you? And he's like, yeah, just forget about the phone. We didn't see this conversation, but this is how Ashley is presenting it to us. So she's upset that he poo-pooed on her plan on buying him a new phone. She thought he would have been a lot more gracious, appreciative. He would have told her at least, thank you so much for buying me a new phone. But he was just like, forget about your phone because it's not going to be here soon enough for me. Okay, fine. So he did say something about, when she bought the phone for him, when she ordered the phone, he did say something about how she kind of threw it in his face that she had to pay for it because he wasn't working. And to me, that kind of makes more sense of how, of why they're upset at one another. That makes more sense to me, that she probably says something a little bit emasculating about the fact that she had to buy him a phone because he's not working and he has no money. And I could see him saying, well, you know what? Forget about it. If that's how you're going to feel about it, then, just cancel the order. I don't want the phone. That to me kind of makes more sense, but I wasn't there. So Ashley later on meets up with her sister to kind of vent about Manuel and him being ungracious about the phone. And they talk about that. And then she tells her sister that his people are blowing up her phone because his phone doesn't work. So his mother must have given their relatives that live in New York, must have given them her phone number because they are blowing up her phone. And so then her and her sister talk about the possibility that maybe Manuel is just using her for a green card because he's got family in New York, that maybe after he gets his green card, or if he doesn't get his green card, he'll just, go live with his family in New York, that he's not really here for her. So they explore that possibility. The sister is like, I really want her to be careful because this guy might maybe using her. Later on, Ashley and Manuel are back at her home, and her phone is blowing up again with his relatives calling. So she confronts him about that. She's like, why do your people keep calling me? Like, what is going on? So one of the people that called her was his cousin named Mercy. So she decides to call Mercy. And Manuel was very hesitant about Ashley calling his cousin because how Ashley can get. She can get kind of out of pocket when she's upset about something. So she FaceTimes Mercy, and she asks the cousin, why the hell are you calling my phone so much? And Mercy says, we're really worried about Manuel because we haven't heard from him, or whatever. They're worried about him arriving in America and wanted to make sure that he was okay. That was basically all it was. So after that, she asks the cousin, well, how many relatives she asked Manuel, how many relatives do you have in New York? Is it a little? Is it a lot? He says he has a lot of relatives in New York. Well, she asked Manuel that, or did she ask the cousin? Anyway, she finds out he's got a gang load of cousins in New York, or relatives, uncles and cousins and aunts and whatever, all live in New York. So this makes her very concerned because she thinks that it won't take much for him to get on a bus and leave her and go to New York. So, that's in the back of her mind, that this guy might just be using her for a green card. Moving on from there, we have Nick and Devin. Now, this is our newest couple. Nick is 31 years old. He lives in South Korea. Devin is from Arkansas. And I'm thinking to myself, what a coincidence that we have another Caucasian woman named Devin with a Korean man, because 90 Day Fiance the other way a couple of years ago, we had Devin and Ji-hoon. But anyways, so Nick is an electrical engineer. He's born and raised in Korea, but he did spend 6 years in Australia. And I think that's where him and Devin met, in Australia, because he's never been to America, but there's a lot of pictures of them together. So I think they met in Australia through Tinder. They began dating. They have these nicknames for each other. He calls her Piggy because he says that she's kind of chubby, or a little chubby, or something like that. We eventually see her. She's not chubby at all, but I guess he says, compared to Korean women, she looks a little bit chubby. So he calls her Piggy. She calls him Monkey, and she's actually from Arkansas. So after she got through with Australia, she went back home to Arkansas, and they're already engaged, but the first engagement it didn't go the way he wanted it to go. It wasn't romantic enough. So when she comes to Korea to see him, he plans on proposing to her again in a lot more romantic manner, but he has to get official approval from his parents before he proposes to her again. So are they engaged or not? I don't know. But before he does this official engagement, his parents have to approve. And he's worried that they may not approve because he knows that his parents really want him to marry a Korean girl, a traditional Korean girl. So he doesn't know how they're going to feel about his relationship with Devin. So Devin arrives in South Korea. I thought they were really adorable together. I thought they looked really cute together. And the purpose of her coming to Korea is to get to meet his family, his parents specifically, to see whether or not they'll give their stamp of approval on their relationship and therefore their engagement. So that is our newest couple. I don't have much to say about them other than that I think they're really cute together, and I hope the parents say yes. I don't know why, but I want this relationship to really work out between. And then he also talked a little bit about his hesitancy about moving to Arkansas because he's heard of a lot of racism in America, and he's kind of concerned about that because he faced racism in Australia. So he is a little bit concerned about that. And my final thoughts, Nikki, please get on the plane, come back to America. Igor is just using you, child. And yeah, choose yourself, put yourself first. Thank you so much for joining me. I really do appreciate it. On your way out, please don't forget to rate the video. If you like this content, subscribe to my channel, and I'll definitely talk to you later. Bye.